Pokemon FireRed is generally considered an easy Pokemon game, with the caveat that there are a few really brutal fights. Misty is dangerous, especially for a second gym leader. Sabrina can be a nightmare if her Alakazam ever uses Calm Mind. Even the rival fights can be really tricky. In between these fights, you have trainers like this. Oh god, oh no, not a Kakuna with only Harden! The extreme differences between these trainers piqued my curiosity. What would happen if I played through FireRed, but after every fight, I throw away my current team and replace them with the team that I just beat? So, when I'm forced to beat bug trainers in the Viridian Forest, I have to use these teams to beat Brock instead of Bulbasaur or Squirtle. Can I constantly swap out my Pokemon, finding just the right NPC team to take on these brutal gym leaders? Can I navigate the perfect path of trainers in one of the least linear regions in Pokemon history? And can I eventually become the Pokemon champion? Or are the difficulty spikes just too high to overcome? Let's find out. Before we start going through the game, let's talk about the rules for this challenge. Immediately after beating any trainer, I throw out my current team and take the team I just beat. This will be exactly the same team. Same Pokemon, same level, same ability. Even the stats of the Pokemon are exactly the same. I'm not allowed to make any changes to the Pokemon here. Can't gain levels, can't change moves. The only thing I'm allowed to do is change the order I send the Pokemon out. I'm also going to be playing on set mode, just like the NPC trainers do. Let's take a look at the first fight of the game, in Professor Oak's lab. I select Bulbasaur, so I'll take on my rival's Charmander. This is a pretty easy fight, and immediately after I win, I check my team and no more Bulbasaur, just one level 5 Charmander. Now that my rival is locked into the fire Pokemon line, that's the Pokemon I'll be both fighting against and fighting with. Bulbasaur will be lost to the sands of time. My bad, little dude. There are tons of trainers in the next area, the Viridian Forest, but I want to skip most of them for now. Instead, I take Charmander to the only mandatory trainer in the forest, Bug Catcher Sammy and his level 9 Weedle. Thanks to its high level and ability to poison me, coupled with my lack of a fire move, Bug Catcher Sammy actually takes the victory over me. But even though I lost, I can just try again. This is an exploration into what's theoretically possible, so we can try again to see if it's possible for our team to win. This isn't about being perfect, it's about understanding what we could do if it did go perfectly the first time. Charmander can defeat the Weedle, who is now the sole member of our team. I take Weedle to the next mandatory fight of the game. Oh god. With a level 12 Geodude and a level 14 Onix, poor Weedle doesn't stand a chance against Brock. Even if I get an early poison on Geodude, I always faint first. And that's with Onix waiting in the back with Rock Tomb. It's completely impossible to win this fight. We've just hit our first roadblock, where our current team isn't good enough to beat the next mandatory trainer, and therefore we can't make any progress. So, we need to stop and figure out a way to get our team to a place where we can beat Brock. Each roadblock is a puzzle that needs to be solved, and the pieces of the puzzle are optional trainers. Because I skipped all the optional trainers, I could fight any of them now, and then use that team to try and beat Brock. This is why I only want to fight mandatory trainers until I hit a roadblock. It keeps as many options open as possible. In this challenge, finding the perfect path of NPCs to fight is critical. There are 6 optional trainers, so let's find the team that can most likely beat Brock. My first thought is that the rival fight on Route 22 would be a great option. Even with Charmander, special attacks are gonna do a lot of damage to Geodude and Onix. The problem is that, despite being at level 9, Blue still didn't teach Ember to Charmander. That might be even worse than a single Weedle, actually. Of the 5 remaining options, 4 are bug catchers, who all have a mix of Caterpies, Weedles, Metapods, and Kakunas. None of them know any special attacks and would also get immediately owned by Brock. This leaves a single option, the one pewter gym trainer, Camper Liam. Liam is not an amazing option by any means. His Geodude and Sandshrew only have Tackle and Scratch respectively as damaging moves, but there are a few pluses. We'll talk about these shortly, but for now, we need to just get this team by beating Camper Liam and, Weedle. Can't even do that. Sometimes roadblocks require a series of battles to get past, and this is certainly one of them. This early in the game, where everyone has weak moves, fights often come down to who can handle the most damage, and because Weedle is just one Pokemon, it has less total HP, and loses to most teams with multiple team members.
Dude, I can't even beat Kakuna!
In fact, there's only one fight we can actually win with Weedle, against Bugcatcher Rick and his level 6 Weedle and Caterpie. I can't poison Weedles due to their poison typing, and I can't poison Caterpies due to their Shield Dust ability. So I just have to keep clicking Poison Sting for damage and pray they go for lots of string shots. We can defeat Rick, taking his Caterpie and Weedle, and find the path of fights that slowly improves our team. This terrible team can squeak by a slightly less terrible team belonging to Bugcatcher Doug. Doug has 2 Weedles and a Kakuna, which turns out to be the perfect team to take on Camper Liam. Weedle can poison them, and then I just switch to Kakuna to stall with Harden. We've found the path to take over Camper Liam's team, and finally, we're ready to clear the roadblock that is Gym Leader Brock. Sandshrew is the key to this fight, thanks to the move Sand Attack. By getting Brock's Geodude to -6 accuracy, it's only landing a third of its moves. I can then use Defense Curl to increase my defense, so even if it does land a move, it's doing basically nothing. From there, it's a damage race. I do the same thing to Onix, and if Sandshrew dies, I have a Geodude in the back to continue the damage. It does take me a few tries, but with a little bit of luck, it is totally possible for the gym trainer's team to beat the gym leader. We take Brock's Geodude and Onix, finally clear of the first roadblock. But we have many more ahead, and therefore plenty more puzzles that we have to solve. We've already traded our way from a single level 5 Bulbasaur to this excellent team. And the goal is to keep getting generally stronger, even as the game forces us to make bad trades. It's kind of like the Pokemon version of the red paperclip theory, or the Ryan Trahan penny series if you have Gen Z brain rot. Essentially, starting with a small item like a penny or a paperclip and trading up to eventually get a house. But sometimes we're forced to make a bad trade like, a motorized Kiss snow globe? Whatever the fuck that is. The next mandatory trainer is Bugcatcher Colton on Route 3, and Brock's team easily dismantles the bugs. It's a shame we can't use Brock's excellent team for a tougher battle, but that's just the way this game is designed. Colton's bugs can beat Bugcatcher Greg, who can, in turn, beat Bugcatcher James. This team is a level 11 Caterpie and Metapod, who get taken all the way to the following required battle, against a Rocket Grunt in Mount Moon. The bugs are completely outmatched here, so we've reached another roadblock. To solve the roadblock puzzles in this challenge, we need to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the available teams. My current team, frankly, sucks enormous ass, so the only teams that I can beat are also terrible. Bugcatcher Kent in Mount Moon also has suck-ass bugs, and I can win because I'm a brilliant human and it's a dumb AI. But this team is better because it has a Weedle with Poison Sting. So this gives me a damage advantage over teams with only one Pokemon, like Lass Iris and her Clefairy. But with that victory, I have a level 14 Pokemon, the highest level Pokemon available. I can slap out Lass Miriam's grass Pokemon, who I use to obliterate Hiker Marcos's rock Pokemon. And like that, we've found the path that gives us the perfect team to take out the roadblock. Geodude and Onix can take Hyperfangs from Rattata and take out the Zubat, allowing us to continue on. By figuring out what team we need and reverse engineering a path to get there through type advantages and level differences, we can solve the roadblock puzzle. The Grunts team can defeat the final required fight of Mount Moon, and we take that team all the way to Cerulean City, where, for the first time this run, the next mandatory trainer isn't clear. In Cerulean, we have a branching path. We need to beat the trainers on Nugget Bridge leading to Bill's house, and we need to beat the Cerulean Gym. We can do these in whatever order we want to, but we have to finish both before we can move on. So, I need a plan to move through this section. The first thing I need to consider are the potential roadblocks, the difficult fights that most teams can't beat. We have two in this section, the Nugget Bridge rival and the second gym leader Misty. But thanks to the split path nature of this section, we can use one to beat the other. First, I find a path to Misty. The team I carried from Mount Moon can defeat Swimmer Lewis in the Cerulean Gym, a Horsey and a Shelder. This team of 2 Pokemon can take out the second gym trainer, Picnicker Diana, and her 1 Goldeen. And crazy enough, this Goldeen has the Kryptonite to take down Misty. Misty is such a beast because her Staryu and Starmie can deal insane damage with Water Pulse. So the only real way to get by her is to never let her attack you. And how can you make Misty not attack you? Well, one of the best ways is confusion. Goldeen knows Supersonic, and if we get lucky, Misty's Pokemon will rarely hit us, instead hitting themselves. The self-hit damage plus Goldeen's Horn Attack can actually give us the win over Misty. Now that we have a really strong team, we can take advantage of it, taking on the Nugget Bridge rival. With Water Pulses and the ability to recover, we have no problem taking out Blue and his Charmander. With 2 of the hardest fights out of the way, we just need to continue down the Nugget Bridge trainers. Blue's team demolishes Bugcatcher Cole, but his team is too weak to take on the next trainer, who has a Pidgey with Gust. No problem, let's just take a look at the available optional trainers. There are none. There are literally none. We can't make any progress down Nugget Bridge because the trainers are all in a row. We used all the trainers in the gym to find a path to beat Misty, and the biggest gut punch of it all, we had to jump a ledge to get to Cerulean, a ledge we cannot backtrack over. We are completely stuck here. So, is the challenge just impossible? We have a terrible team and only 1 trainer we can fight, who we have absolutely no chance of beating. Things are dire, but they're not impossible. We just need a new path. There does seem to be an easy solution. Rather than chaining all the gym fights, we could skip the first one, fighting the Goldeen trainer right away. This would allow us to take the bugs to Swimmer Lewis, where Poison and Stalling would totally work. But once you beat Misty, all her gym trainers become inaccessible. This plan needs a total rework. Let's say I defeat Swimmer Lewis with the team we brought from Mount Moon. This team is a Horsey and a Shelder. And instead of easily taking out Goldeen to continue the Cerulean gym path, let's switch now to the other branch. Despite the level disadvantage, this team actually has a shot. Shelder knows Supersonic, so we can get Pidgeotto to hit itself in confusion. We also know Icicle Spear, a super effective move to take out Pidgeotto. Horsey knows Smokescreen, so we can get Rattata to -6 accuracy, and slowly take it out with Bubble. We do the exact same thing to Charmander. And with the super effective Bubble, we can actually beat the rival. Although, admittedly, this was not easy and took a lot of resets. Now we crush Bugcatcher Cole and take this team of bugs to the gym, defeating Picnicker Diana and her Goldeen thanks to a Poison and Stall strategy. Just like before, Diana and her Supersonics can beat Misty, and we can use her team to get past the roadblock of Lass Alley and her Pidgey. Not being able to backtrack made this puzzle extremely challenging, but I found a successful path through this roadblock. Thankfully, none of the trainers the rest of the way are significantly better or worse than the next. So we can work our way team by team, all the way to the final required trainer, Lass Haley taking her Oddishes and Pidgey. This team beats the grunt waiting for us on the way out of Cerulean, and we are finally free from this puzzle, with plenty of optional trainers available to us again. I continue down Route 5 and 6, able to beat the 1 mandatory trainer, Camper Jeff and his Spearow and Raticate. We're unable to go anywhere else until we get the HM for Cut, and we need to fight 1 trainer to get it, the rival fight on the SSN. My Raticate's Hyper Fang is helpful, but Blue's Raticate is faster and stronger. We hit another roadblock. Thankfully, this puzzle has a very easy solution. With all the optional trainers on Route 6 and the SSN, we can find the team that matches up perfectly against Blue. Fisherman Dale has 2 Goldeens and a Tentacool, all level 17. These can be taken out by my Raticate's Hyper Fang, and now I have these water Pokemon. These Goldines do the same thing that my previous Goldeen did to Misty, prevent it from attacking with supersonic self-hits, and deal solid damage with Horn Attack. We win, take Blue's team, and get the HM for cut. Now that we're using HMs, quick note, obviously these trainers don't know any HMs, so to be able to actually progress through the game, I'm giving myself an HM Pokemon. So if you see my shiny Celebi in the party, that's what he's doing. Thank you, HM Tony. We love you, HM Tony. It would be great to use this strong rival team to take out another strong trainer, but unfortunately, none are available. Lieutenant Surge would be a great option, but Surge is blocked by a mandatory gym trainer. So after defeating Gentleman Tucker, I would take his Pikachu, unable to bring my rival's team to take on Surge. But I have an even better plan. Even though Gentleman Tucker isn't the next mandatory trainer, I can skip the gym if I want to, I still choose to take him out now. But I do not fight Surge. Instead, I continue working my way through the mandatory trainers. Pikachu can beat Picnicker Alicia's grass Pokemon, who can beat Bugcatcher Connor, who somehow can actually beat Pokemaniac Ashton with his Cubone and Slowpoke. Thank you, Venonat. Now that I have a Cubone on my team, I go back to Vermilion City. I can take this team straight to Lieutenant Surge, because I already cleared out the path to get to him. Cubone easily handles Surge, and we get the third badge in a team full of strong electric types. But we still have to go through the rest of Rock Tunnel. So I go mandatory fight by mandatory fight with no roadblocks, emerging from the cave with the team of Picnicker Dana. Dana's Meowth, Pidgey, and Oddish can defeat the one mandatory trainer on Route 8, Gamer Rich and his fire Pokemon. By doing this, we have now reached the open world portion of this game. We can get to Celadon, Saffron, and Lavender, and have a bunch of gym leaders to fight in whatever order we want to. The mandatory trainer plan doesn't work here because there's no clear next trainer. I need a new strategy. Let's think back to how I handled Surge. I cleared the path to him, so when I got a team with great ground Pokemon, I could go straight there. Maybe something like that could work here. Since I have a team of fire Pokemon, I head to the Celadon Gym, defeating a trainer that blocks the way to Erica. Beauty Tamia has 2 Pokemon, so I can take on the other mandatory trainer, Beauty Lori, who has just 1 Execute. But we don't fight Erica, only clear the path to her. Next, we head to the Rocket Hideout at the Game Corner. Execute can put these Pokemon to sleep and win with Confusion, giving me Eradicate with Hyper Fang that defeats the grunt holding the key card. I take this team over to the basement 4th floor, where Giovanni is blocked by 2 grunts. The coughing on my team knows self-destruct to blow up their strongest Pokemon, and I use this team to take out the other grunt, who's about equal in strength. Giovanni is now available to fight, but again, we don't fight him, just clear the path. Our setup is almost complete. I just need to do one more thing. I bring my new team over to Route 16, but I can't go any further than this since I don't have the Pokeflute from climbing the tower. However, I do have access to this area above the route. Here we find a young couple, Leah and Jed. They have a level 29 Rapidash and Ninetales, 2 of the strongest Pokemon available right now. This can only be fought in a double battle, therefore it's technically one team. So when I defeat them, I can get both Rapidash and Ninetales. My setup is now complete, and we can begin phase 1 of the boss fight sweep. Because I cleared out the path to Erica, I can take this team straight there, where our strong fire Pokemon absolutely decimate her, so much so that we don't take a single point of damage. Now, Erica's high-level grass Pokemon are mine, and because I cleared the path through the hideout, I can take this team straight to Giovanni, where we one-shot the rock Pokemon and have enough damage to outlast his dangerous Kangaskhan, which is now mine. And I can take this team straight to the Pokemon Tower, where the first fight is another challenging rival battle. Because this is the first fight here, there was no clearing necessary, and the rock Pokemon handle Blue and his Charmeleon. This is the clear out method, allowing us to stack the hardest fights back to back so we can use them to defeat each other. Unfortunately, these are all the boss fights we have access to currently. We can't get past the Snorlax yet, and there's still a grunt blocking the entrance to Silphco and the Saffron Gym. So there's only one thing we can do: continue to climb the Pokemon Tower, forced to waste Blue's team on a channeler with one Haunter. We have a few ghost on ghost battles until we reach the top level of the tower, where the Rocket Grunts have more diverse teams. One Ghastly is not strong enough to beat the first Grunt's bats, so I have a minor roadblock here. We have about a million options though, so I just defeat Fisherman Chip on Route 12, whose Goldeen does what Goldeens do best: Supersonic and Horn Attack its way to a victory. From here, each Grunt can take out the next. And we reach Mr. Fuji, who gives us the Pokeflute, allowing us to open up Kanto even more. We can bike all the way down to Fuchsia without running into mandatory trainers, so we can head straight into Koga's gym, where we have one required fight against Juggler Kirk and his low-level Psychic Pokemon. We can easily win, and with this fight, we've actually cleared out the next round of boss fights. It's super helpful for this specific challenge that Koga has Psychic trainers in his gym, but unfortunately, my team is just too underleveled. The pure strength of his team is too much to handle. Thankfully, there's one trainer that has exactly what we're looking for. Juggler Caden has one Pokemon, a level 38 Hypno, which is so high level compared to all other available optionals, which are all in the high 20s and low 30s. With 4 Pokemon, we can just outdamage him, giving us the level 38 Hypno. We take him straight to Koga, where we click Psychic over and over and over to easily take out Koga, breaking us into Phase 2 of the boss fight sweep. We head right to Saffron, where we can enter Silphco. By using a slightly convoluted path, we can actually avoid all the optional trainers, aligning directly with the next rival fight. We can sludge, poison, and stall our way to a super easy win. Now I have my rival's excellent team, but I don't want to continue through Sylph yet. There's one Grunt standing between me and Giovanni, and I don't want to waste this team on him. Instead, I fly to Pallet Town, where I now have the ability to surf because I beat Koga. Oh, and because of HM Tony. Thank you, HM Tony. I deeply love you, HM Tony. I can surf, go through the Pokemon Mansion, and navigate through the Cinnabar Gym without needing to fight a single trainer, meaning I can bring Blue's team all the way to Blaine. By using Charizard's Smokescreen and Gyarados' Dragon Rage for consistent damage, we're able to win after a few attempts. Unfortunately, I can't make any more progress until I complete Silphco, so we use Blaine's team to defeat the one Grunt standing in our way. Although his team is in the low 30s compared to the high 30s and 40s of the boss fights, he does have a Cubone and a Marowak, 2 Pokemon who seem to match up well against the upcoming Giovanni fight. So I give it a try, and lo and behold, we can actually hold our own here. Cubone can 1v1 Nidorino with Bone Meringue, I lower Kanga's defense with Leer and bring in Marowak for the kill shot. And Marowak sweeps the rest of the fight, and we can beat Giovanni using the team of one of his nameless Grunts. How embarrassing for him. We can now enter Sabrina's gym, avoiding all trainers. Giovanni's array of brutal physical attackers dominates Sabrina's frail Pokemon, and we easily take her out. This gives us our 7th badge, and we have officially completed the open world portion of this game. From here on out, we are back to the linear format, so we can mentally shift back to the roadblock strategy we employed at the beginning. Next, we enter the Viridian City Gym, on a quest to get the 8th and final badge. There are 2 mandatory trainers here. First is Black Belt Takashi, whose Machops and Machoke are completely overwhelmed by my Kadabra. The second is Cool Trainer Warren, who basically has the exact same team as Gym Leader Giovanni, just at a lower level. My Machops are way too weak for this fight, so we've hit a roadblock. Thankfully, almost every trainer in the entire game is available to us. Our roadblock is mostly ground Pokemon, so I target the numerous swimmers around Cinnabar Island. Unfortunately, most of these trainers have super weak Pokemon who barely know any water moves. Maybe Water Gun if we're lucky. There's one exception though. Swimmer Dean on Route 20 has one Pokemon, a level 35 Staryu. This is the highest level water Pokemon available, and it knows Bubble Beam, which is the strongest water move on any of these trainers. I overwhelm it with Seismic Tosses and take Staryu for myself back to the Viridian Gym. By starting with a few minimizes, I can lower the frequency of damage, and then just Bubble Beam my way to a win. With no more required fights, I fight the final gym leader with basically a mirror team. Even though I'm at a lower level, I can win by just playing smarter than the AI can. It also helps that some of his Pokemon are dual poison type, and are hurt more by ground moves. We get the final badge, entering the final stretch of the game. The last thing I have to do is fight my rival once again. Because I forced my rival to have Charizard, we can use Rock Blast to easily take out his entire team. Now I can enter Victory Road, but with the Elite Four looming, I need to plan ahead. The jump in difficulty for these fights is huge compared to the trainers in Victory Road, so I need to be very cognizant about who I fight. But the beautiful thing about the Kanto Victory Road is that there are no mandatory trainers. So I can walk through the entire thing, taking the team I had straight to Lorelei. And that team is still my rivals. A diverse array of Pokemon that almost match the level of Lorelei. This is seriously the best case scenario. And with Charizard, I can easily take out the ice Pokemon. The Elite Four is a straight up gauntlet. Kind of like the Nugget Bridge, but like way harder. Because we can't exit in the middle of these fights, we have to use one fight to beat the next. Sometimes this isn't a problem, like using Lorelei's team against Bruno. Water moves take out the rock Pokemon, and we can brute force our way past the fighting Pokemon. But sometimes we have a terrible matchup, like taking Bruno's team to the next fight, Agatha. My strongest moves are fighting type, and Agatha's ghosts are completely immune. For fights like this, I have to be really methodical in how I take it on. By starting with a Foresight on Gengar, I can make it susceptible to fighting attacks. Then I switch into Machamp, bulking up until I get poisoned, activating my Guts ability, which doubles my attack. From there, I take out as many Pokemon as I can before I succumb to toxic poison. I can then use my remaining Pokemon to clean up the rest, including using Counter from Hitmonchan, turning a disadvantage into an advantage. Agatha's team does have a lot of ghosts, but it's officially a poison team, and that's how we can defeat the next trainer, Lance. We just poison all of his Pokemon, dealing big damage back and knowing what Pokemon can tank what hits. We defeat Lance and take his team. Now it's time for the final fight of the run, Blue. Some of his Pokemon are legitimately no problem. Aerodactyl deals with Pidgeot beautifully, Alakazam is a glass cannon that falls to weaker physical moves, and Execute has a flying weakness that my entire team can handle. But with no electric moves on my roster for Gyarados, and no water or grass moves for Rhydon, these Pokemon give me the most trouble. I have to just brute force my way through these guys, sacrificing multiple Pokemon to take one out. This just leaves my rival's ace, Charizard. Back at the very beginning, I picked Bulbasaur to give my rival Charmander. The main reason I decided to give my rival the fire type is for this fight, right now. Charizard is an absolute beast. It's fast and can one-hit KO most things with Fire Blast. There's only one Pokemon on my team faster than it, Aerodactyl. So, I'll go first and I can use Ancient Power, which is 4 times effective against Charizard, giving me a decisive victory. Through almost 100 fights and team swaps, I was able to bring my team from one single Bulbasaur all the way to defeating Blue and becoming the Pokemon League champion. Using the roadblock strategy as well as the clear out strategy, I was able to get myself out of every sticky situation, solving all the puzzles presented to me by the layout of Kanto. And through it all, we had our best friend.
Can't ever look at HM Tony. It just freezes the game. Whenever I try to look at HM Tony, it freezes the game. HM Tony is too powerful.